Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy!
That's me, Tiberius! And today, we're going to talk about some very awesome stuff. We have a laundry simulator game to talk about, a book about an amulet, and we have a totally awesome guest. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Kevin Eagleton!
Thank you for having me, Tiberius.
Well, you are welcome. And Kevin is a glass blower and really makes cool stuff out of glass. Well, today we're going to start off with the video of the week, and this is going to be a wash.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
Well, today's video game is Egg Hunt's Laundry Simulator Beta. Well, this is a game on the Roblox platform. It was made by Dev House UK. Because it is on Roblox, you are able to play it on PC, Mac, Xbox, and even your cell phone. And it is free. This is the only game made by Dev House UK.
Oh my God, I'll go out and get one right now.
Well, you start the game and a button pops up and it says start. Then what you do is you go to conveyor belt and you click on the clothing. Next, you have to put the dirty clothing in your washing machine. You collect your clean clothing after your washing machine is done doing your washing cycle. Then you watch the laundry chute that gives you money, 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 money.
Wow, that sounds great.
Last, you can use your money to buy more and better washing machines and better baskets at the shop. And also, there are pets. Well, the washing machines improve speed, amount of clothes it can take, and the multiplier in payments. The baskets improve the amount it can hold, and if it auto-collects items from the conveyor belt. The pets can pick up laundry and put them in the washing machine for you, but they cannot move clean clothes. Well, I give Egg Hunt Laundry Simulator Beta 8 out of 10 stars because it was so much fun to play, and my parents say that I should do this in real life. Now it's time for the book of the week, Amulet the Stone Keeper. This book was written by Kazuo Kibushi. Let me read you the back of the book. In fact, Kevin, would you like to do the honors?
Yes, I would. And after a family tragedy, Emily Navin and their mother moved to an ancestral home to start a new life. On the family's first night, Em and Navin's mom was kidnapped by a tentacled creature. Now it's up to Em and Navin to figure out how to set things right and save their mother's life.
Oh, wow. Well, this is an AI book that is worth 1 whole point. It is made for 3rd grade and 0th month. Well, you can get this book at the library or on Amazon. But this is a great book series about a girl finding a stone and then a curse was been made on her. So the first cutscene is that they're in a car and there was a big light and they get stuck on a cliff and then the father had to die because he could not get out of the car. So 2 years later, they have to find a house and they did, and the girl, not the mom, found a stone and then a curse was made on her. So then, when they sleep, they hear something, so the mom goes alone to see what it was. Then, she was poisoned. Then her family tries to help, but run into an arachnopod, and then the creature that had the mom inside of the creature got away. Then, she makes a choice. The girl makes a choice, and then a lot of mischief happened. It's all in this book. It's so cool. And it's so small, but it's actually pretty good.
Wow.
Well, I give Amulet the Stone Keeper 10 out of 10 stars because I really like that they drew a dream That's like really cool in the book.
How cool.
And now it's time for our interview of an interesting person. Today's guest is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Kevin Eagleton! Kevin is a glassblower and makes really cool stuff out of glass.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And first off, how are you enjoying being on the show?
I think it's great that somebody could be a multimillionaire and be so small.
I mean, I'm not a multimillionaire yet.
Yet.
Yet. I said yet for a reason. Okay, so I have to ask. You are listed as being a glassblower, and I saw the Netflix show Blown Away and loved all the cool glass. Is that what it's really like in the shop?
That's what it looks like in my shop. It's about 100 degrees air temperature. And when I'm blowing the glass, the front of my body is exposed to about 1100 degrees.
What?
So it's a hot place. I'm a little hothouse flower.
No. Well, what got you interested in being a glassblower?
What's interesting about being a glassblower is that you can create whatever you envision in your mind's eye. And you can take it out of your brain, put it into a three-dimensional format.
So what got you interested in being a glassblower?
When I was a small child, my grandmother had a paperweight, and inside the paperweight were little tiny flowers, Italian flowers, called millefiori, which means 1,000 flowers. And I was obsessed with how those flowers got in there.
Wow. Okay, so how do you blow glass? And does it matter how hard you blow?
Yes, it does. What you want to do with glass is it has to be molten. So the glass itself has to be brought up to a temperature of about 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's about 4 times hotter than your mom's oven. And then once it's molten, I take a long steel pipe called a blowpipe, which is hollow, and I get a gather of glass on the end of that pipe, and I use the forces of gravity and centrifugal force to keep it on center. And then I use different tools made out of graphite or cherry wood soaked in water to shape the piece.
Okay, so how did you get started?
I got started because I was interested in arts and crafts, and I went to school for stained glass, and then I was hired by a church studio on restoring and building church windows. And from there, I went into learning how to blow glass, torch working, fusing, which is layering glass and putting it in a kiln.
Okay, so what is the best part about being a glassblower?
The best part is you can set your own hours, but you have to be disciplined to do that. So I can go out and relax during the day a little bit, but in the afternoon, I have to work. So that's kind of a neat thing.
Okay, well, can you blow glass into a perfect square?
Yes, you can. When the glass is hot and molten, it's almost like cheese, hot cheese. and you can make a mold out of any type of material that won't burn up. So wood soaked in water, clay, any type of metal that won't melt, usually stainless steel or iron. And if you make a square of iron, you can blow the molten glass right into that square.
It's actually smart.
Yeah.
So when you were a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up? Did you always know that you were going to work creating glass artwork?
I knew I wanted to do something in the arts, and I always played around with different things, leatherworking, ceramics, metal, stuff like that. And then I became interested in music like about 1 billion other people when the Beatles came out. So then I wanted to be a rock and roll star.
Okay.
But then after doing that for a while, I decided to go back into the arts.
Okay. So what is the coolest part about being a glassblower?
The coolest part about being a glassblower is dealing with the customers. You can make something for them that they'll treasure. You can make something for them that they'll keep for the rest of their life. And because it's glass, it'll last for centuries.
Okay. So since it is glass, I am sure it breaks sometimes. Do you have to start all over when something breaks?
Usually, if you know what you're doing, and I've been doing it for 35 years, if it breaks, you usually start over because there's a process to it, and a broken piece would actually show.
Okay. So which kind of task does a glassblower need to do on a daily basis?
Making sure the studio is safe, making sure that everything gets in its place, making sure that
There's no birds in there.
all my tools are in their order, making sure we don't have wild animals flying around. We live in the forest, so sometimes birds get in or squirrels like to watch.
That makes sense. Well, do you need a lot of training to work as a glassblower?
Yes. I'm always reading, and if I'm not reading, I'm going up on corning glass and studying different techniques. It's an ongoing process. You never learn it all. You can learn as much as you want, but I'd have to be like 500 years old to learn everything.
Okay. Well, what is the hardest part about being a glassblower?
It's physically very demanding because you're in a hot environment and you're exerting yourself, moving the glass back and forth. That's the hardest part, the heat and the physical.
Okay. So I saw on the show Blown Away someone doing canes into a vase. Well, can you do caning?
I have a cane right here. This is called a latticino.
Oh, that's actually really cool. So it's like a big long stick and it has like white lines, like zigzags.
And those white lines are what makes it called latticino. Latta in Italian means milk. So that's where it gets its name.
Oh. Well, what was the first job that you ever had?
The very first job I ever had was I used to stuff advertisements in the newspaper, the weekend newspaper, and then roll them up and tie them up with rubber bands and then load them into a truck.
Okay. Well, was there anything you learned from that job to help you be a better glassblower?
Yes, I learned how to maneuver, and I learned how to deal with people in a nice, kind manner because I had a terrible boss.
That's funny. So you designed cool glass pieces. Do you ever find a piece that someone wants that is too hard to make?
No, I haven't yet, but I'm sure that there's one out there with my name on it.
One mistake can ruin it all.
Yep. If you sneeze or blow the pipe the wrong way.
Yep. Well, are you ever worried or nervous that you might mess up on a piece of glass?
No, most of the time I know my limits, my wheelhouse. I know when to do simple work, and I know when I have the power to manipulate.
Well, what is the most rewarding part about being a glassblower?
The most rewarding part of being a glassblower is helping other people that are getting into the glass business by helping them with information that I've found out regarding glass or regarding shows or galleries, things like that.
Okay. How long does it take to make a good piece of glass art?
Well, that depends on what I'm making. I can make a beautiful heart-shaped piece in a matter of minutes when the glass is hot.
Okay.
Or I can make a chandelier, which takes years and years.
In years.
Mm-hmm.
Have you received a lot of awards for the work that you do?
Yes, I have. I've won Best of Show in many different states.
The White House.
I won one of the best things to happen to me was I got a letter from the White House, and they wanted me to make an ornament for their Christmas tree. And I did that
That's a
for
big
2
opportunity.
years in a row.
That's a big opportunity. Like, I don't think anyone else would probably get the opportunity to get to make an ornament for a Christmas tree for the White House. I mean, that's a big responsibility.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh. Well, what is the craziest thing that has happened while you were doing your passion?
The craziest thing that's ever happened. I can't say that on the air. Just being in the art community, you see crazy things. I was at an art fair one time, and I heard this building about a half a block away. I heard it creaking, and I looked out of my booth, and all of a sudden the whole front of the building, which was glass and brick and wood, just caved in right into the street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did it crush any cars?
No, it didn't hurt anybody, luckily. As soon as people heard the creaking and rumbling, they decided to get out of there really quick.
Wow. Well, who helped motivate or inspire you the most in following your dreams?
The most inspiring person that I have come across is my wife, Alexandra. She's choking me right now.
Well, what advice would you give my listeners if they wanted to grow up and be a glassblower?
I'd say start very early, get a good education, work out, make sure that you're physically strong, eat really good food, study real hard.
Okay. Well, what
And
is the hardest project that you have worked on?
one of the hardest projects that I've worked on was a sculpture that was 7 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And it had about 1,500 individual pieces of glass. And they were glued on to 2 big plate glass pieces. And the whole thing weighed close to 700 pounds.
Wow. Well, what is the one piece of glass art that you are most proud of?
Sometimes it's just the simplest thing. When my parents passed away, I wanted to make a heart. So I made a heart out of very, very rare glass. And that's one of the nicest things. The thing that I'm proud of.
Wow. Well, if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
Invest in Elon Musk.
Why?
Because he's a genius.
Okay, well, what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
The biggest mistake.
Yes.
Moving to Florida and thinking I'd be happy. No, Florida is way hotter than Chicago. I used to go to class in the middle of the winter. I would be outside and it would be 20 degrees and I'd be blowing glass and having a good time. And some of my friends said, go to Florida, you'll love it. So I went to Florida and I did love it. And I made a lot of money, and that was in the 80s and 90s. And
now it's just straight up warm.
Yeah, now it's global warm.
Okay, not gonna lie, that's funny. Well, when you are not working with glass, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I have a 120-pound dog that drags me around the property. Her name's Cheerio. And I have a wife that chases me around the property going, Kevin, pick that up. And then if I have time and strength left over, I like to play music. I've been playing guitar since I was your age.
Wow. That's really cool, actually. Well, do you play video games? And if you do, what is your favorite one?
No, video games are evil.
Not even on your phone?
Not even on my phone.
No!
Keep them off my phone.
Well, why would you invest in Elon Musk? Because he also makes video games.
They make you want to eat Cheetos and drink.
No, it actually doesn't.
They do. It's terrible.
Oh. Okay, so what is your favorite book to read?
My favorite book to read, the best book that I've ever read in my life, is called The Power of Myth.
Okay.
And it's by Joseph Campbell. And it talks about how man has the power to be good or to be evil, and how to be good.
Okay. Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid's show, but that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about.
Well,
Hard question, eh?
I can't tell you about the explosion,
Yes, you can.
and I can't tell you about my CIA status.
Explosion?
Let me think really, really hard. One time, me and my friend George were walking down the street, and we went by this park. And this park had this big pond. And in the bottom of the pond was all this money. Nickels, dimes, quarters,
Pennies.
pennies. You leave the pennies, you get the big stuff. We filled up our pockets. We filled up our back pockets. We filled up our shirt pockets. And then we tied our shirts in knots so we could hold more stuff. We were soaking wet. We weighed 50 pounds more than we did when we got there. And we started walking along,
Was it a fountain?
whistling because we were rich. We had all this money that we had just found in a pond. And then out of the shadows came these two nuns. And they said, "Oh, no, you can't take that. That belongs back in the pond." We said, "But the pond doesn't need it. The pond's got fish." She said, "Put it back in the pond." So we had to empty all our pockets
No.
back into the pond. And then we had to do penance, which is hard. And we had to kneel and say we were sorry and all that stuff.
Let me guess, you didn't have a fun time after that?
Nope,
Because you were just soaking wet.
we were soaked and wet. But then there was another time, if you got time for this other time, was the time that I found gold. Me and my friend were walking, and there was a big, huge pit where they were building the Chicago Expressway. And they had unearthed all these sedimentary rock, which is limestone. And in the limestone were all these fossils. So we used to go there after school and collect fossils. And one day we saw all this beautiful, glittering gold rocks. So again, we loaded up our pants, filled our pockets, put everything that we could carry in the back of wherever it would fit, and we were off to the hobby store. And we got to the hobby store and said, "Mr. Wilger, we'll take one of those and one of those and two of those airplanes and four of those Maserati cars." And he said, "Son, how are you going to pay for that?" And we said, "Well,
We got
Well,
gold.
we got gold." And he says, "Yep, you do. You got gold." He says, "But it's called fool's gold. You know why?" And I said, "Because it fools us. It's not really gold, is it?" And he said, "Well, it's gold, but it's fool's gold." And I said, "Well, that's the way it goes when you're a kid. You win some, you lose some."
Yep. Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
I'm a nice guy. My wife is the hardest working woman in the world. My dog loves everybody. And we'll get through this.
I should know that by now. Well, do you have a website or Facebook for my listeners that want to follow you?
I do. My website is eagletonglass.com.
Okay.
And you can look me up on Facebook under Kevin Eagleton.
Okay. Well, what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
I think you got it covered. I think
Okay.
you're smart.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kevin, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Yes.
Sure.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Well, thank you, Kevin, for helping me with Math Corners. Today, we're going to talk about percentages. And I've been doing my IXL.com math exercises, and we got into a number of problems that have to do with fractions. But there's a very special fraction that most people don't know about. This is a special fraction that makes what we call a percentage. If you remember, a fraction is a part of a whole. Well, a percentage is a fraction whose denominator is 100. So if you increased my money by 20%, it would be increased by 20 over 100. So if I have $1,000, 20% would be $200 more. Now there's a special symbol for a percent. It looks like a slash with 2 circles on each side of it. Oh, and the cool part is that you can make a percentage that's larger than the whole. So let's say we have 120%. If my money increased by 120%, then it would increase by $1,200. That would be really nice. So Kevin, do you now know all about percentages?
Yes, I do. We have lots of percentages in my business. The galleries and art fairs take between 40 and 50% of our total, which is outrageous.
Oh. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for your help with Math Corners.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You are welcome.
You rock.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the heart of a lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about obedience. For me, I think obedience is being fully committed to doing what is pleasing to God. Qualities of obedience are complying guidance with a good attitude and respect for the laws. You know when someone is obedient when they follow instructions willingly and thoroughly. Now this week, I had a Pepsi Youth tournament for bowling. We were on the road for over 4 hours. Then when we got to the tournament, they changed the rules and said only one parent could come to the bowling alley. Well, I went in with my dad and got all signed up to my lanes. Then my mom snuck in the alley and sat down to watch me. It was not obedience, but it was really nice to be supported. This was a hard one because I wanted my parents to see me bowl more than to obey some rules made by the alley. I guess my parents need to work harder on obedience. So Kevin, did you see or use obedience at all this week?
I practice obedience all the time. It's hard being a guy. It's hard being an artist. And a guy and an artist, it's just around every corner. There's somebody saying, you got to obey the rules.
Of all of the Heart of the Lion virtues, which is your favorite?
I would say nobility.
Why?
Because being noble is a culmination of all the other characteristics.
Okay, and we should always try and be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Yep, we should.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Kevin Eagleton for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking with you today, and I hope in the future that I can visit your lair of destruction. Glass production.
Yes, certainly you can come there. And we'll put you to work until you're 21.
And be
And
sure
we'll
to listen.
And we'll take 100%.
And be sure to listen to us next week on the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.